making this admission of criminality in banking. Here it is.
There are two fundamental reforms that we need to get adequate capital, and two, to get far higher levels of enforcement of fraud statutes. Existing ones, I'm not even talking about new ones. Things were being done which were certainly illegal and clearly criminal in certain cases, which, I mean, fraud is a fact. Fraud creates very considerable instability in competitive markets. If you cannot trust your counterparties, it won't work.
All right.
Indeed, we saw.
So he's admitting fraud by the bankers, but how many of them are in jail? Got another clip coming up where he says the Federal Reserve's above the law. Max Keiser, who needs no introduction, syndicated radio host here on Genesis Saturday mornings, BBC TV show, RT TV show, Press TV show, MaxKeiser.com. Max, what is your take on what you just heard?
I am the puppet master.
It's you. You're the one that's behind it all.
That's the big news.
Well, Max, I couldn't say it any better than that. So what do we do to counter this?
Well, I mean, yeah, the people who are in a position to make effective policy to maintain America's sovereignty would be Bernanke and Geithner and these people. They are the people on the front lines. The job of the Fed is to protect the currency, and that's their primary job, and they've abdicated that responsibility. They are working hand in glove with the folks who, like Robert Zoellick over at the World Bank, to create this new global currency. And so they're the guys who are in a position to do something about it. Now, if you're talking about what can individuals do, I have been talking on your show for a long time now about the people who I call the gold and silver vigilantes. People like John Embry up in Canada, Sprott Asset Management, who's taking physical delivery. And you see what's happening in silver. The silver market in the last couple of weeks is a direct result of these guys who I call the silver vigilantes demanding physical delivery of their silver and busting.
Because there's limited supplies. The J.P. Morgan and others have been caught manipulating gold and silver market by physically taking it. It shows that they're naked shorting the market with gold and silver that doesn't exist.
Yeah, they sold silver that doesn't exist. So they've sold 100 times more silver. And we know this from the testimony from the whistleblower from the London Bullion Markets Association just a couple of months ago. And someone will be on my show, Keiser Report, with some blockbuster news. They're going to be breaking on my show in a couple of weeks. But we know that the London Bullion Markets Association, during this whistleblower testimony, is short 100 times the silver that they actually have in the vault. So they've been selling contracts tied to silver that doesn't exist. So what these huge fund managers, these gold and silver vigilantes, as I call them, what they're doing now is they're forcing the issue. And this is what's behind this huge move in silver, and we see a huge move in gold. So those guys are the heroes. Those guys are taking on the central bank crooks.
Well, Max, we're going to talk about that later, who you really think the puppet masters are. We know it's the Fortune 100 and the military-industrial complex, but what's your take on a bizarre Jekyll Island, Georgia meeting where they're talking about criminal bankers?
Right. Well, the word is fraud, and it's been fraud's been the key word for a long time now. If you listen to guys like Bill Black, who did the savings and loan cleanup, he cleaned up some of the fraud that was systemic at that time.
Professor William K. Black.
Yep, William K. Black. Now, nobody has really done anything to clean up the fraud in the system now. And if you look at this foreclosure nightmare, as we've been talking about, banks like on Wall Street have been committing fraud 5 different ways, plus they've created an assembly line of fraud, industrial strength fraud. It's not just a couple of one-offs, a couple of forged documents here, a little bit of shady dealing there. They've created this assembly line of fraud where they forged thousands of documents and they securitized hundreds of billions and trillions worth of fraudulent securities, and they sold these to banks all over the world. Then they created credit default swaps to make bets on the very fraudulent securities that they created to cash in again.
So it's a Ponzi scheme that took over the world.
An industrial strength assembly line Ponzi scheme. It's made huge. Now, when somebody in the U.S., for example, forecloses, they have their house foreclosed upon, they lose, let's say, $100,000. The banks on Wall Street make $6 million. They make $6 million. So, of course, it's because they have the credit default swap. They made the bet that the homeowner would foreclose. Then they got the homeowner to sign off on fraudulent documents when they signed the mortgage to begin with. Then they resold those mortgages fraudulently into the securities market, guaranteeing that it someday would come when the homeowner would foreclose, they couldn't pay on their debt, and then the banks cash in again. 30-to-1 leverage. So it's an assembly line of fraud, and of course Wall Street's paying themselves $140 billion record bonuses this year at the end of the year for their Christmas bonus for having committed the biggest massive fraudulent securities boondoggle in the history of the United States, and they're paying themselves hundreds of billions of dollars. I didn't hear Greenspan suggest that the banks on Wall Street should be confiscating, have that wealth confiscated at the end of the year. If he's saying it's fraud, and we all know it is fraud, then how come he's not saying, and other folks are not saying that, okay, then if the American people own these banks after bailing them out and they've committed fraud, then give us back our $140 million. Don't pay yourself that in bonuses, number one. Number two, start paying us back some of the other money you stole. Where's the money back to us? I just started this during the break. I was talking to this guy, Michael Krieger, who's someone you should have on your show, by the way. He's very hooked in with the guys over at Zero Hedge. He's a brilliant writer. He's got some fantastic stuff to share. Michael Krieger is his name. You should have him on your show. But I was talking to him about the fact that if everyone in America bought one silver coin, or even if 100 million people in America bought one silver coin, that's 100 million ounces, and take that off the market, it would crash J.P. Morgan, and we would have a scalp. We would have a major victory. So my idea is, what about one of your, force this up to Google search ideas with the search term, crash J.P. Morgan, buy silver. See if we can, in fact, crash J.P. Morgan by getting everybody to buy 1 ounce of silver. Solutions, as we have described them over the months, we've all, I'm going to school on you because I see what you're doing with the Google search and the InfoWars is having a profound effect on the national discussion. You, in my opinion, you're driving Beck. Beck is a ratings whore. He'll go wherever the ratings are. The same thing with Drudge. And they see the traffic on Google exploding based on your search engine suggestions. That's where the sheep will go. Drudge and Beck are sheep. They're now following the truth talker. So I'm saying if you can go down this path and say, crash J.P. Morgan, buy silver, we can, in fact, crash J.P. Morgan. J.P. Morgan is one of the biggest financial terrorists in America today, probably even bigger than Goldman Sachs. And if the American people can take this on and put that company under, take that stock price down to zero, simply by putting 25 or 50 bucks into buying 1 or 2 silver coins, that would be a major victory.
Well, again, I think your idea is excellent. It takes some preparation, is the point I'm making. So we'll have to discuss this and develop it for the very near future. Perhaps, Max, you should write an article for InfoWars or Prison Planet next week. We should choose a date and then have it all elegantly and clearly laid out for people so that when they click on that search term, they actually see a story that gives them the info, or the profound idea you have will be lost, kind of like throwing your seeds on the rock, not in the fertile soil, as Christ said. But Max, always amazing talking to you. Max Keiser at maxkeiser.com. We'll talk to you in the very near future, Max.
God bless.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, there goes Max Keiser.